Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, traders, waders and space invaders, welcome along to the Joe Spivey YouTube channel where we discuss books and little else. And I know that I've mentioned one or two times on this channel that I reside in a certain county in northern England. Well, I confess it seems to be that I now live in Ruka in northernmost Finland, and I'm experiencing the polar night because it may well be November the 1st, 2023, but it is in fact presumably December the 21st right now because it's 12 o'clock midday and it's not getting bright yet. So you join me as ever, ladies and gents, in the doldrums. Not only is it unpermissibly dark here in England, our England cricket team for the ODI World Cup over in India, who were joint favourites before the tournament, are bottom of the pile. It is as if they've gone out onto some sort of bacchanalian platform on the previous night and turn up to every game completely legless and drunk, or either the Chuckle Brothers or any other comedic duo you could find have had their bodysuits put on by Joss Butler and Ben Stokes and they're bottom of the pile. Not only have they not performed, they have been to the detriment of our national interests. They're terrible and awful, and I'm down in the dumps because they're terrible and they were joint favourites to win the tournament. But nevertheless, we won't let that persuade us. You join me for our first instalment of Non-Fiction November, ladies and gents. This is the BookTube event organised primarily, I think, by a book Olive. A month during which if you read no non-fiction criminally, then you should read some. And if you already read some, like myself, you should just read more and more and effectively devote the entire month to reading non-fiction. The first book that we are going through, I'm sure I will put in the title, because I'm an excellent content producer, is Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers and Strategies. Now, Wikipedia has Mr. Bostrom as, they dub him a philosopher, I think. He works at the University of Oxford, and is engaged in existential human risk and in brain emulations and in many inexplicable things that I think most of that community rely on the ignorance of others so that they can continue doing their work. Anyway, this 2012, 2015, this is the afterword was written in 2015, book about AI and the potential ramifications for human society. This was written before AI was cool. Nowadays, because ChatGPT has shown us that 30,000 word treatises on Charlemagne or, the Ming Dynasty can be written in half a second, it has obviously come to society's attention that we might well want to keep a tab on this industry. But this has seen a resurgence, I believe, in its popularity, or a bit of a rejuvenation, but it was popular at the time. It's a New York bestseller. So it's not particularly large. It's about 200-300 pages, and I will get into my criticisms a little bit later on, both sort of textual and physical, because whoever's printed this thing has got no care for its readership. But let us just run through what he goes through. So he very aptly defines superintelligence early on as any intellect that greatly outperforms a human being across very many cognitive domains. So it's not just the calculator that you've got in your pocket that can do a 7 integer number times an 8 integer number to get a 15 integer number, all within the space of a second, or the Google search engines that can produce 4.8 billion results in 0.6 seconds, or whatever nonsense it is that they can do. It is not because that calculator and that search engine can't bowl a cricket ball or organise a political spectrum or raise infrastructure from the ground, or talk about colonising the Earth, for example, or colonising Mars, for example. So it's as I say, human intelligence or better across very many different domains, not just one hyper-focused thing. So he talks about the 4 paths, dabbles in the history, but that's not what his purpose is, so that bit we can skip over. Dabbles in the 4 paths towards superintelligence, which he states are, first of all, brain emulation, whereby we use the virtues of microscopy in order to sort of, get a few chopsticks into the brain and then digitize it and make sure that it's then some sort of monitorable thing on a computer, which seems bizarre. I thought we were an awful lot more further down the line with that than we actually are. It's something that is going to be very dependent upon technological innovations rather than just the speed at which or the speed at which we research. I thought we were a lot further along than that. Apparently, we're not even close to being able to emulate a human brain, not just in how it's 3D mapped, but you have to do it. He doesn't explain it very well, but it's synapse to synapse. It's a very difficult thing. That's one way that a super intelligent artifact or being could come about. He says that's a long way off. He talks about networks and organizations in which you have those super intelligences in one very specific domain. So yeah, as I say, calculus, organization, or other things. There might be a scenario in which they're all brought together by someone in Russia, someone in China, someone in Angola, someone in Peru, someone in America. They all come together, and all of a sudden the links come into place. He talks about biological cognition, which is what Musk and all that lot are all interested in with Neuralink. So either we can essentially just give somebody a pill or have capability as an adjunct to a human being. So you just either have them have an SD card in their ear or have it proctologically smashed up their end, or in some way you will have intelligence sort of tabbed onto you rather than have it being an intelligent being. And then the fourth one is what we now commonly recognise to probably be the one with which we will become super intelligent, which is just AI programming, which, essentially just a load of algorithms and code on a screen that will somehow become intelligent. So those are the four that he discusses and meditates on the viability of those four methods. Then he goes on to talk about the three natures of intelligence. So there is speed superintelligence, which we probably most commonly recognise as superintelligence. So these things that can, as I said earlier, produce 4 billion Google search results within half a second. Then there is collective intelligence, which is how large something is and essentially the interdisciplinary and how well it does very many different things. And then you have the quality superintelligence. So if, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, you will allow me to analogize, as I know you do, the speed super. If we were to be discussing a fighter, because we're all hyper masculine on this channel, and we can never help but throw punches. The speed aspect of that would be essentially how well or quickly someone can throw a punch, how quick someone is. Then collective superintelligence is how big the person is in front of you. How big you are in that fight. So how much mass you have. And then the quality superintelligence is essentially the strategizer and how well that technique is. So lots of superintelligences could be analogized to be like the bungling fool outside the pub that is drunk and is just windmilling their arms, whereas all three that come together would be, I don't know, Bruce Wayne or something like that. Somebody very, very effective. And you'll also notice quite how well those two, any one of those three levels of superintelligence could easily manufacture the other two aspects of superintelligence in and of itself. Then he talks about the kinetics of a super explosion, and this was the bit that was scariest, by far scariest for me, was because the general consent, it's the viability of everything is all up in the air just now, and industry consensus on any matters discussed in this book are difficult to get at. But the one industry consensus which has been solidified here and cemented is that the bridge between now and human level intelligence is massive, but the bridge between human level intelligence and super intelligence could be dangerously and vanishingly small. So as soon as you've got something that it has human capability, the time it takes to become what we deem super intelligent could be, as I say, alarmingly small. And then he talks about, he uses weird equations about amplification and whether a system will then become a recalcitrant and how much it's going to destroy itself and yada yada you. But one thing that I did like that he did was talking about how we ought to view AI from an anthropocentric perspective, in that we shouldn't imbue it with the human characteristics that we usually do with many things. So you've seen the caricatures in comic books of this huge cube striding about Brooklyn, inevitably with an attractive girl in its arms or on its head or something, some sort of bionic being. There is no necessity for it to be malevolent or cautious or clever. It's not a biological being, for example, so it might not necessarily rank propagation of its species as highest. So that's something to think about. But then we get to, that's all quite well done. I don't know, again, I'll come into the criticism in a minute, but that's all followable and accessible and interesting. And then we get to the point where it's very easy to see why the quote-unquote dude bros or the Jordan Petersons of the world, who are obsessed with whatever Marcus Aurelius and value hierarchies and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Bostrom talks about, if we happen upon a situation whereby we have this superintelligence, what should we program it to do? And then he talks about a concept called perverse instantiation, folks, which I'm sure you're all infinitely aware of and cognizant of, but I'll bore you and go through with it. It's the notion that even the simplest and seemingly innocent commands that we give to a superintelligent being could quite easily be it could run amok with it. So if we just type in, for example, be happy or do whatever you can to make us happy. I know that sounds banal, but do whatever you can to make us happy. There's nothing stopping a superintelligent being sort of instead of just making us smile and doing things to us which will, as I say, make us happy. There's nothing to stop it from freezing our faces as a smile and making us into grinning idiots, or making some sort of hedonium whereby we can only experience pleasure with our sort of neurological circuitry. In essence, you can type in anything good, such as build infrastructure, make politics simpler. Again, I know that sounds banal, but there is a definite possibility that even the most well-minded individual that gives superintelligence a stimulus, it could necessarily run amok with it, and it could counterintuitively be a very, very, very dangerous thing indeed. So that's essentially what he runs through. He talks for a good 150 pages about what it ought to be that we put into the system and how we ought to strategize, and the interpolar scenarios that I've talked about, which is that the possibility that China could have 1/3 of AI and the Republicans in America could be at the helm of another third of it, and then another third could be in Australia or something like that, and how the politics of that would work. Great premises for books and novels that I'm sure will proliferate in the years to come. But now if we turn to a little bit of the criticism, first of all, Nick Bostrom should have had a ghostwriter for this. He's obviously somebody who is well versed he clearly knows his stuff. He's clearly outstandingly, he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of all that he is talking about. Does he translate that very well to the so-called layman or even the intermediary reader in this? No, he does not. It is, for the most part, impenetrably dull, and I, never trust a review that doesn't quote, so I will quote in a moment just how difficult it is to grasp some of it. There is absolutely, at times, there is no readily care for the people that are, the prospective people that are going to be reading this. He is just babbling on and on and on in the most circumlocucious and garrulous way possible. And at times he seems like a nice guy, but at times it seems like it's just academic posing and intellectual grandstanding, because he just thinks, how many words can I aggregate here, and how many complex systems can I just shove at you in this next page to make you think how clever I am, without actually imbuing much meaning into the text. So let me just give you an example. I actually put in the margins here. It's as if Bostrom is trying to make this unreadable. And I find we don't do many ad hominem attacks on this YouTube channel. In fact, we do next to none. But I do find that it's more effective and more, informative for me to hold my nose whilst reading out anything that Nick Bostrom has written, just for, I don't know, nerdy affect. So this is a paragraph about evolutionary selection and how that might help with what value we put into an AI.
Evolution can be viewed as a particular class of search algorithms that involve the alternation of two steps. One expanding a population of solution candidates by generating new candidates according to some relatively simple stochastic rule. The other contracting the population by pruning candidates that score poorly when tested by an evaluation function.
I have no idea what he's talking about there. And it's hundreds and hundreds, 320 pages. It's at least 100 pages of that. It's just paragraph, chunk after chunk after chunk of ridiculously complex stuff. There is a difference between, as we've identified already on this channel, there is a difference between being complex and being profound, and there is a difference between being complicated and well-meaning. It's just not something that is enjoyable, and the disgraceful lack of care for the reader is unfortunately is unfortunately very obvious. But and also one of the other criticisms that I was thinking about was how much of an annoying backseat he takes. So he's clearly somewhat of an expert in the field, and all he wants to do is lay it in front of you rather than making any value judgments on that, which I found to be, at first, of course, that's fine, and you don't want somebody really overbearing and somebody pressing at your shoulders and sort of shaking you up and down. But he is, as I say, he's very casual with it, and I want his opinion a little bit more. He's an expert, for Christ's sake. I want to know just what it is he thinks about X, Y, and Z. But anyway, that is our first reading for Non-Fiction November, folks. Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence. No, I'm not too sure about it. It was enjoyable. I got through it, but it was painstaking. And did I not feel a sort of peremptorial moral obligation to do a video for you on YouTube? I probably wouldn't have finished the damn bugger. But I have done, what he says is very exciting, but if it had been done in a more effective and eloquent way, then this could have been absolutely majestic. But as I say, it's just a little bit of it manages to be a stodger without actually being very long. I don't know how that works, but anyway. Smirks per minute, which is our unit. There weren't many smirks per minute. Finally, the next video for Non-Fiction November on this channel will be the much touted 1812, Napoleon's Fatal March on Moscow, Adam Zamoyski. I know that I'm going to enjoy this because it's got rave reviews, so I can't wait to sink into a book that is going to be more tailored to my reading proclivities, so that should be damn good. But yes, I'm sorry that was a little bit of a dull video, but it was a dull subject matter, so I tried to vivify it as much as possible. I tried to put a few bits of gold and tinsel around it, but I don't know how successful I was. But yeah. If you're scared of AI, leave a comment on this video and we can talk about it. Or if you want to ask any questions about AI that the internet can't answer, but I, the higher being, can, please do please do pop those down below as well. Thank you all so much for your support as usual. I have been Mr. Joseph Spivey as per usual. Thanks ever so much for watching BookTube, and goodbye.